Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Am Robot's podcast. This is episode number 7. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. Today, we'll be talking about something really important, something that will change the course of your life. Something, if you master, your life will be changed 180 degrees. Today, we'll be talking about becoming a high performer. In today's episode, I'll be referring also to one book written by Brendon Burchard. He's one of the top coaches around the world, one of the best public speakers, motivation speakers. The book is called High Performance Habits. The book has changed a lot of lives, has been sold millions of copies around the world, translated to different languages. The book is a masterpiece. And you can't see any entrepreneur, any businessman, any coach, any influential, any successful person who doesn't recommend reading this book. Reading this book will actually open up new horizons for you and will help you in becoming a high performer and will help you in identifying the habits that high performers and the elite and the successful people are doing and implementing in their lives. So before we start, we must know exactly what do we mean by high performance. High performance stage is when you actually operating at your peak levels, when you are actually achieving the results you want, when you are getting things faster and the results are incredible, when you are facing all the obstacles, when you are facing all the hardships, but you still operate at your peak levels. Your energy levels are high. You are skyrocketing. Your mental strength is high. And to become a high performer, either in your career, in your personal life, you need to follow or to implement certain habits, which we will be talking about from the book, as I mentioned, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. If you are not achieving the results you want, but you are a hard worker, then you are probably an average performer who's stuck in daily grind of life like most of people. As I mentioned, today's book or the book will be actually helping in addressing the fact that the high performing people aren't born that way, but instead they mainly rely on 6 different habits which were identified with the research on high performance. We will be discussing all of these habits and we will dive deep through each of these habits so we can have a better understanding and how can we apply these habits in our lives as well. Good habits and high confidence are actually key to high performance. High performance doesn't have anything to do with your personality or inherent gifts. Brendon Burchard actually examined people from 190 different countries in order to understand how high performers achieve what they do, how they operate, how do they think, what do they do exactly. Another thing is gender, race, age, and personality traits have very little to do with high performance. But key habits, such as keeping yourself fit, for example, have a lot to do with you. Actually, Brendon Burchard highlights and says it's not actually who you are, it's what you do. The habits or the 6 habits that high performers rely on and depend on are not easy. They are life hacks. Straightforward, they are life hacks. They take major effort, and all people examined by Brendon Burchard actually pursued establishing these habits consciously and constantly. You need major effort, you need to have patience, you need to be consistent also, and you need to be intentional for sure. One of the elements of high performance is developing high confidence. And as I mentioned earlier, high confidence is key to high performance as well. And high confidence can be earned through diligent practices. As you master more and more and achieve more and more, your confidence rises in a continuous loop of growth. You need to understand what kind of person you want to become. You need to envision your life and to know what you actually want. What is your purpose? Or how do you want your life to look like? This could be, for example, you can say, I want to be kind, I want to be attentive, I want to be humble. Then you need to ask yourself whether you have been behaving this way to date and what needs to be changed. For example, let's say one person says, I want to be an author for many books that will influence the life of million people. So the question here you can ask yourself, what have I been doing in order to get closer to my goal? That's one thing you can ask yourself. Or let's say you're not doing anything, you can ask yourself, what can I change? What can I switch and do so I can reach to my goal, or I can achieve whatever you want? I believe all of us want to be high performance, either in our life, either in our careers, our personal business, in anything we strive as humans to be high performers. So, to help in that and to become more clear on the six habits applied and followed by the high performers who were interviewed by Brendon Burchard, as we mentioned, they are from 190 countries around the world. I will be mentioning and talking and explaining as well what are these six habits they are following and implementing that is actually making them high performers. So let's get started with habit number one. The high performance habit number one is actually seeking clarity. To seek clarity is to establish a vision and set intentions frequently on the type of person you want to become and the skills you need to develop and acquire. And Brendon said in the book also, clarity comes from asking yourself questions continuously and further refining your perspective on life also. So if you want to seek clarity, to become clear on your life, you have to keep asking yourself questions. In other words, you have to become self-aware as well. So some of the questions you can be asking yourself: who am I? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What do I value the most in life? What are my future aspirations? What goals am I pursuing to fulfill these aspirations? And the last question also you can be asking yourself is, if I could describe my ideal self in the future, the person I'm trying to become, how would I describe that self? So you need to describe your own future self to yourself. You need to examine that, describe it, and make it clear to yourself that you want to become this person, you want to pursue this life, you want to have this and that, you want to achieve this and that. You have to be clear about that. You have to choose your values that you live by as well. So Brendon encourages us to choose three inspirational words that best describe our future self. So you can pick three inspirational words that will describe your future self and that will resonate with you. They can be values such as, let's say, discipline, achievement, success, love, compassion, empathy, helping others. The list goes on. Three inspirational words that describe your future self and that resonate with you. That's for habit number one, which is seeking clarity. Habit number two of the high performance is generate energy. Generating energy is actually to maximize mental alertness, to increase positive emotions and enhance physical vibrancy to perform better in all dimensions and aspects of life. The more energy that a person has, the more likely it's that they will reach the top level in their respective fields of interest. Let's say any field of interest, either coaching, public speaking, engineering, art, anything in life. The more energy you have, the more likely you will make it. That's for habit number two. Moving on to high performance habit number three, which is you have to raise necessity. You can't become extraordinary without a sense that it's absolutely necessary to excel. It's absolutely necessary to become top notch. It's absolutely necessary to become a high performer. Brendon also says, when you feel necessity, you don't sit around wishing or hoping, you get things done. Exactly, because when something is necessary for you, and when you sense necessity of something, you will take actions. You will do whatever it takes to get things done. And how do you find necessity? How do you feel and how do you find necessity? The first thing is you need to identify and be clear on what you want to become. So to raise necessity, you actually need, at the first place, you need to be clear on what you want to become and how you want your life to look like. Then you need to set goals that are aligned with your future identity. Because when you do that, you will become more driven and more likely to excel at whatever you are doing. So setting goals that are aligned with your future identity is a key component for you to become driven and to achieve excellence and to become a high performer. Then moving on to habit number 4, which is you need to increase productivity. Brendon also clarifies that if you want to increase your productivity, you need to first determine the outputs that will matter the most in your success. So you have to identify and distinguish what are the outputs or results that you aspire to get. You need to identify, distinguish what are the output, what are the results you are looking for, the things you want to get or receive after doing or getting something done. One of the things Brendon also says in the book, and I'm quoting him here, figuring out what you are supposed to produce and learning the priorities in the creation, quality, and the frequency of that output is one of the greatest breakthroughs you can have in your career. Exactly, when you figure out what you are supposed to produce, then you learn and prioritize the creation, the quality, and the frequency of the output. It's one of the greatest breakthroughs you can have in your career, and it will make you a high performer. It will get you 10x results in a faster time. So moving on to high performance habit number 5, which is develop influence. This habit is actually about cultivating the ability to shape other people's beliefs and behaviors. When you have more influence, you are able to diffuse conflicts faster. You are able to work on projects that you ask for, and you can rally other people on your ideas and make more sales. Brendon points out also that one of the reasons why people are unable to develop influence is because they don't ask for what they want. And he says you have to ask for what you want. Sometimes people don't ask for what they want, maybe because of fear of rejection, or they think others will judge them harshly, or simply because they underestimate the willingness of others to engage and help. So you won't know until you ask. Ask for whatever you want. You might get it, who knows? But the key here is to ask. Asking can help you in having a better influence. Moving on to the last high performance habit, habit number 6, which is demonstrate courage. Brendon writes and says, people think of courage as a human virtue that some have and others don't. But that's incorrect. Courage is more like a skill since anyone can learn it. And once you understand and demonstrate courage more constantly, everything changes. He tells us that more actions you take towards facing your fears, the less stressful these actions become. Demonstrating courage could be as simple as taking the first step towards real change, or to speak up when it's difficult. It also means facing the challenges and adversities of life rather than avoiding them and taking action despite feeling fear. So that's basically the 6 habits of the high performers. And let me recap the 6 habits before we wrap up our episode. Habit number 1 is seeking clarity. Number 2, generating energy. Number 3, raising necessity. Number 4, increasing productivity. Then number 5, developing influence. And the last habit is demonstrating courage. I hope you enjoyed this episode and I hope you learned something from this episode, and I believe you will be a high performer. The fact that you are listening to this episode is one of the steps you are taking forward and one of the steps you are taking to become a high performer. So put the habits we have talked about in action. Start asking yourself the questions we have asked. Start asking yourself the questions we have mentioned. Start taking action. Start becoming a high performer, becoming extraordinary, becoming robust. That being said, this is the end of today's episode. Thank you for listening again. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, you can find all the episodes on our website, on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and Podomatic as well. Until next time, my friend, be extraordinary, be robust. Take care.